When I decided to start working on guitars professionally, I've been spending decades doing my own instruments, tweaks here and there, and upgrades on pickups and replacements of toggle switches on Stratocasters and gluing down a nut that fell off of a bass once. Kind of winging it, kind of guessing game. And but I did perfect it over time, what I thought was perfect. And but my instruments ended up becoming functional, and I knew that what I was doing was at least 80 to 85 to 90% correct in most cases. So when I decided to take the leap and go professional, I did some research online, tried to find some schools that offered classes online, and there were very few, if almost any. Well, one of them ended up being Southeast Guitar Repair Academy. It was a plethora of information. It seemed to fit the bill, which kind of bummed me out a little bit because I had just moved from Marietta, Georgia, to the Charlotte, North Carolina area, and they happened to be located just really close to Marietta, so I was just in their backyard. But the opportunity is always there that I could head down sometime and pay a visit. Barrett Culpepper and his wife Mindy have created the Southeast Guitar Repair Shop. Currently, they have 7 luthiers on staff and are constantly cycling through repairs and mods of all types of guitars and basses and banjos and ukuleles. They're a very busy shop. So for them to have an academy online, with courses of all types that Barrett holds your hand and guides you through in a concise and clear manner. Once you've gone through the class, the video is always there to revisit later. I've revisited plenty of videos just to make sure I was up to par and doing the right thing at any given moment. Their resources are endless to the students that sign up for their courses. Mindy even has several courses on how to, once you've graduated their academy as a certified luthier, she gives you a lot of, she has her own business section, how to run your own repair shop. It's very, very good academy. Their social media is on point. They post constantly customers' guitars going across the bench and what they're doing and showing off these beautiful instruments and spicing it up with a little bit of humor here and there too. It's really awesome to see. So when I started the podcast, I knew that I would be reaching out to Southeast Guitar Repair and Mindy and Barrett, and they were very obliging. And my conversation with Barrett was fun, and I'm going to go ahead and share that with you today. Enjoy. Barrett, how are you, sir? Thank you so much for taking some time with me. I greatly appreciate it. I know you guys are completely busy.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, and I hear you have several techs on staff. How many do you guys currently have?
Right now there's 7 of us total.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I remember only a year ago, I think you guys had 3.
Yeah, there's been times where it's just been me in here, but yeah,
wow.
Some techs come and go, but that's kind of the point of running a high quality work shop. I mean, you get some guys on board and try them out, train them for a few months, and see if they got it. If you got it, you got it. If you don't, you don't. And we can't send subpar work out. So
sure, absolutely.
Sometimes you get cut.
Yeah, and then sometimes they fly the nest and go on to bigger, better things elsewhere.
Yeah. That's happened quite a few times where somebody goes, "All right, I got this knowledge. I'm going to go do," and I say, "Good luck," and then they get out of guitar repair shortly thereafter and do something completely different.
Really interesting.
Yeah. You're not going to get the volume of and type of work brought to your shop unless you're pretty well established and you have a decent reputation. So You know, I always wish them the best of luck, but I always explain to them like, hey, if you're wanting to do this for a living, you know, this is a good spot to be. And
Absolutely.
you know, they kind of want to go off and do their own thing, and then you never really hear anything from them again. So
Well, being a graduate of the Southeast Guitar Repair Academy myself, I know that your lessons and your lesson plan were very laid out in a really concise, clear delivery, eye-opening for sure. And I was,
good.
and I have to say, I need it on a sign behind me in my workplace. Nothing too crazy. That's it.
Yeah.
Because it's, things like setting up a Floyd Rose. It could be overwhelming, but it really is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. People get it on their bench and go, oh, geez, what do I do? And I'm just like one step at a time before you know it, you get to the end and everything's exactly how it should be. You know, it really isn't anything too crazy. You just take a deep breath and, you know, take it head on.
Calm down.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
well.
People get in and they'll get overwhelmed or they want to rush and get through stuff, and you can't. It's definitely not something you can rush. You got to take your time with it, and you know, treat each individual instrument, whether it's a $20 guitar or a $20,000 guitar, treat it exactly the same every single time. Just get it up, take a nice deep breath, and just have fun with it. You know, take your time with it.
Absolutely. How did
Yeah.
you, Barrett, get your start in this line of work?
Um, Well, I mean, I started playing music as a kid. I started off as a drummer. I'm still am a drummer first, always will be.
Nice.
Started drums when I was about 10, which would have been 1990, and then guitar a couple years after that. And I've always been kind of a tinker, attention to detail and everything. So I messed around with a couple of my friends' guitars just because you don't have it, didn't have anybody around at the time, and you're just like,
Mhm.
well, I'll see, you know. So you messed around with it a little bit, and I didn't really think anything of it as a career. And I was cooking in a couple kitchens, and I, I was driving around with a buddy of mine one time, and he goes, "Man, there's a house around here somewhere. They like teach you how to build guitars from raw lumber." And I'm like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." I was over in Lawrenceville. This would have been like 2003, maybe 2002.
Lawrenceville, Georgia.
Yeah, yeah. And um so I didn't really think much of it at the time, and you know, went on and I'm cooking in kitchens and stuff, and I was living with a friend of mine at the time, and I was like, man, I don't want to cook for the rest of my life. And she's like, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, I remember my buddy telling me about, you know, this house that, you know, these people build guitars. She can. Then the next couple days, she comes home and she got a pamphlet, and she's like, check this. This the one? And I was like, I don't know. Where is it? She's like, right down the street. I'm like, how many there can there be, really? So I
Wow.
went and checked it out and just signed up for their school. And when I graduated, I came in here, and Mike Marshall was the owner at the time. And he said, so you went to Luthier's International? And I was like, which was his brother's school. And they did not get along very well. So he said, well, forget everything you know. He said, we're starting. He's like, building and repairs are two completely different worlds. And he could not have been more right. I used nothing that I learned in luthiery school to build that, as far as information they gave me, that I actually use
Wow.
now for the
Wow.
repair side of it. It's two completely different things. That's why people always they go through building school and they say, oh, I'm gonna go build for a living. This is what I'm gonna do, you know. And at some point in time, you realize, you know, people will always build guitars,
Hmm.
no matter who, whether they're good or they're bad or they're cheap or expensive. And you can try to join that if you want, or you can get on the side that actually makes quite a bit more money doing that, where people will always build guitars and they will always need maintenance and always need work. So,
Very good
you know, I
point.
could spend 2, 3 months building somebody a custom guitar, um, and you know, maybe make a few $1,000s off of it, and then move on to the next one, and hope that somebody is interested in that type of guitar that I'm building
Mhm.
specifically, you know, for nobody or whatever, you know, what I think might be cool, and then hope that that sells at some point in time. But
Yeah.
in the meantime, you got these massive stores selling anything and everything under the sun, and all of those are going to need work no matter what. So,
Absolutely. That's a very
no.
good point. Are there any affiliations with builders in the area?
No, not really.
Okay.
When it comes to building guitars, there's kind of a weird a weird thing you get out of builders. They build one guitar and they say, I'm the king of guitar and I know everything. And then so they're under this impression they're gifted with this knowledge because they cut up a couple pieces of wood and glued them together, that they know everything about guitar at that point.
Sure,
So
sure.
a lot of those guys kind of look down on the repair technician side of it because they think they're better, but most of them don't know that a lot of the technicians actually have their education and background is in building, and then they moved over to the repair side of it because they saw how lucrative and how busy you're actually going to stay just on the repair side of it. So
Do you guys see a lot of boutique guitars come your way?
yeah, I was doing this when the whole relic thing came about, and I'm looking at this stuff and half of it's relic completely inconsistently, like marks and dings and scratches on the instrument where you normally wouldn't get that regular wear and tear and those
Right.
marks and everything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you said you paid $3,000 more to have somebody drag this thing behind a truck. I'm like, I'd have done it for $10, like, hey.
That's a good point.
But no, there's a lot of that stuff. And then there's the other side of it. There's not the other side, but in the same breath, the custom builders that they find beautiful woods and the awesome, great pickups, parts. They'll do everything to the nines, and the fret work and the bone work is trash.
Wow.
I've yet to see somebody do a nice custom build they brought in that the fret work is actually nice and clean.
Interesting.
Which is a massive shame because you're getting all these nice, rare, expensive woods, and then you're skipping the most important part of the instrument is the playing surface, the fingerboard and the fretwork and all of that. And it's buzzing up all and down the neck. You sight the neck and it's super wavy. They obviously didn't stabilize it correctly whenever they, or even if they did at all, plane the fingerboard before they did the fretwork or anything like that. And
Okay.
it's a step that's massively skipped over and is by far the most important part of building an instrument. So,
Absolutely. Good point.
Yeah.
What's the wildest repair / mod that you've ever had to deal with? I know you guys posted on social media recently a guitar that was shot with a gun.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was ridiculous.
That's kind of tough to say the craziest mod I've ever done. I've had a lot of requests that, I'll do them if you want them, but it's some ridiculous. For example, this one guy, to set the tone, his name is Hot Sauce. He wanted to be able to take his guitar and in the middle of the show, slide it across the stage and then knee slide over to it and pick it up and keep playing. So to do so, he wanted the headstock lifted off the body. So he wanted a 2x4 epoxied and mounted to the back of his guitar so that then he could just slide it across the stage. You get stuff like that all the time and you're like, what? You want to do what now?
Has there ever been a mod like that where you just turn it down? You're like, no, you're ruining a perfectly good guitar. Please take it somewhere else. I'm not gonna.
The only time I'll turn down something like that is if it's, say, like a nice vintage Les Paul, old Martin, something, and they bring it in and it's got a couple nicks and dings and they want the whole thing refinished. I absolutely will refuse to do that because I know how much, especially on an acoustic, how much it's going to change the tone, that's going to change the value. It's going to change the look. You want to try to keep an instrument as original as possible, especially like a nicer, older vintage instrument or something like that.
Absolutely.
So people will come in and they're like, I just want the whole thing refinished. And I'll say, I'm not going to do that to this instrument. Or they'll bring in, like a 70s Les Paul nowadays and say, yeah, I want this routed for a Floyd Rose. And I'll look at it and I'm like, man, this is like a $8,000 Les Paul that, you probably bought brand new for $600 and it's done nothing but gain value and you're wanting me to destroy it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can do it all day long. I just absolutely will refuse to. Too much love for the instrument to go tearing something apart for somebody's poor decision making. So
I absolutely respect your decision on that. That sounds nice, actually.
Well, we've seen it from back in the 80s. Everybody wanted their mini humbuckers taken out and the routed for the Seymour Duncan or slapping a Floyd on anything and everything under the sun or the worst one is the gold top. Nobody likes the gold top finish. So now they're taking these old, 50s, 60s gold tops and in the 70s and 80s, sanding it completely down and painting it a different color. And
Oh, the horror.
so I've seen it all done, and I know it was a mistake at the time. And these people come in and they go, yeah, I didn't make the best decisions back in the 80s, and now this is what I have. So whenever somebody comes in currently, I'm trying to prevent later on down the road that regret for
Good
them.
move. Good
So
move.
yeah.
Guitar Garage Talk is brought to you by YourGuitarMechanic.com. Setups, repairs, restrings, and more. Whatever your guitar or bass needs, we can get it done. Offering pickup and delivery service in the greater Charlotte, North Carolina area. YourGuitarMechanic.com. Now, back to the program.
So you guys recently visited the Martin factory. Is that true?
Yeah, it was awesome. That was great.
What was the did they call you up and say, hey, we love what you're doing? And I mean, what was the purpose? Just hey, can we come visit? Or
yeah. So we had Chris Bacon is the Martin rep, and he came in to the shop. It's been a couple of years now, and he brought his old Gibson SG, nice 70s Gibson SG, great shape and everything. And he's like, hey, I heard you guys do good work. I want to trust you with this. I need this refretted. So I refretted it. He got it back, and he goes, this is insane. He's like, can you guys work for us? He's like, what else can y'all do? I'm like, we can do anything and everything you can think of. So he got us in touch with their, the warranty section and everything. And we went through all that process, and they're like, all right, you guys are going to be our Martin Warranty Service Center. Let's see what you can do. And it started flooding through the door. I mean, binding after binding after binding is usually, the most of what we see from Martin and everything.
wow.
And it's just, I mean, we were getting 4, 5, 6 in a week, and they just kept coming and coming, and we're knocking them out and giving them back to them. And the customers had nothing but great things to say about it.
Awesome.
So we worked with Martin for, a couple of years, and they're fantastic to work with. They're great people. And it was, so we talked to them, and they were like, well, how about y'all come up? We'll give you a tour of the factory, we'll buy some pizza, hang out, eat lunch in the meeting room and everything. And so we went and did that, and they could not be more down to earth and more real people. There was nothing phony about anybody there. They're completely aware of any warranty problems that they have. There was no excuses for why, it wasn't like, well, these people don't know how to take care of their instruments. They were like, well, yeah, we've had problems with the glues and stuff and this and that. And they're, just completely down to earth and just very real and very straight up people. And it was great to go over there and see them and talk to them and everything. And they wanted me to go down and hang out in their repair department and kind of talk to those guys and shoot some stuff back and forth. But they kept saying, you want to go back down to the repair department? You want to go back down to the repair department? And I'm like, as a repairman, I know the last thing I would want is some guy coming in and being like, hey, if you do this, you could probably,
Right.
And I could do they had 3 guys in their repair department, and none of them even made eye contact when we came by on the tour. So I was like, these guys are busy, and the last thing I want to do is get in there and start, you when you're in your zone, you're focused, and you do not want somebody coming up and bugging you and by this. So I was like, they're doing a great job. Let them do their thing, We did talk about the what's the new bolt-on design that they have.
Wow.
Which is pretty great. What's the C14 or no? I can't remember the model right offhand.
Have they released it yet, or was this?
Yeah, it's out. It's out. When it came out, we had 3 of them within a couple weeks of the release, with people having some issues with them.
Gotcha.
So I called Martin and I said, hey, there's a couple problems with this. I know y'all just came out before you produce any more. So they said, all right, here's, the guy who designed it. They're like, here's his cell phone if you wouldn't mind calling him. So I call him, and I'm talking on the phone with him, and he's like, well, I'm actually on the beach right now. He's like, I'm on vacation. But so we sat and we talked about the design for a good 20, 30 minutes and stuff. And I told him as a repair shop and a technician, what all we saw that could improve. And he was completely open. He, again, was not somebody going, well, when I designed this, I designed it perfectly. There's no problems. He's like, I totally get this. He's like, everything you've said. He's like, when I get back to the office, I'm going to check in on that. We'll make little tweaks here and there. And, so
Very impressive.
they're very receptive, which is probably why they've been doing what they do for so long, and why their quality of instrument is as good as it is.
Absolutely. I have to say,
Yeah.
Barrett, when I launched into this work and I started watching your videos on some of your mods that you guys have done, I was hoping to God that the customers wouldn't come up to me like you had a guy taking his right-handed guitars and making them left-handed.
Yep.
You showed recently, I'm not sure what the process is called, but sanding the neck down, the finish on the neck to make it smoother, maybe like a satin feel.
Yep. Yeah. Scuff sand it. Yeah.
Stuff to that effect. And I'm like, man, I hope to God no one sees these videos and asks me to do that. I honestly never would have suspected anything like that.
Yeah.
Would be requested. You guys being close to Atlanta, you've got a bevy of musicians out there that probably thrown you guys but you've probably been able to tackle every single request.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing, amazing stuff.
And if it's something we've never done, I'll look at it and go, okay, well, this is going to be similar to doing this, or it's and if it's something completely foreign, which is pretty rare at this point, I've been doing this for 20 years now, but it's pretty rare something comes in that I haven't done that. But if there is something that comes in and I haven't done it, I'll just be straight up, be like, well, I've never done that, but I know exactly how to go about tackling it. If you're willing to be the guinea pig, let's try it out, and then you do it, comes out great, and you got another mod under your belt, and it becomes something else that you can offer to people.
Very good point. Very good point. And I'm sure once you get something that interesting, you've got to record it, right?
Yeah.
Just documented that, hey, I can do it. I've done it. Let's show it off on social media. You guys, your social media is on point. You guys do a lot of really cool stuff, funny stuff.
I appreciate that. Yeah, that's all Mindy. Mindy handles all that stuff. She's like, we're busy at our bench, just going and going and going. And if it weren't for her, you guys wouldn't see any of the stuff that we do. So
you can tell it shows. I love the one where Mindy hands the camera to your daughter.
Oh yeah.
Isla. She hands it to Isla. Well, Mindy has this thing where, so Barrett, what do you have on the bench today? And you explain what's going on. Yeah. And then she pans the camera nice and slow on the guitar. It's like, bam.
It goes jump, and moves on to the next one. She's gone. I'm like, maybe they gotta they want to see what we're working on. She's like, I did. I'm like, all right.
Soak it in.
I'm talking sense into a 9-year-old. So she's mini Mindy. She's pretty cute.
It is cool.
Yeah.
Oh, and then you had an employee once, one of your guys put on a wig and walked around acting like me. What do you got on the bench? That was hilarious.
Yeah, that was my buddy Nate. Nate actually we put a string over his head because he has a shaved head. He's got these face tattoos and everything. There's actually two, I think. Robert might have done one. Robert might have done a wig, and if you go back far enough, the original one is my buddy Nate. Shaved head, real tough looking dude. He's got all these face tattoos, big neck, his whole head's tattooed and everything. And I just took a little string and put it over his head, and he stuffed his shirt and he walked around and goes, "Hey boys, what you working on?" And that was the first one that he copied Mindy, which just cracks me up watching that. But Nate we actually went to the same school. He graduated probably about a year after me, and he's worked in here a few separate times.
Oh, cool.
He's one of the best custom extended range bass builders I've ever met in my entire life. He's an incredible woodworker. He's like a brother of mine. We've been very, very close for a very long time. I've known him longer than I've known my wife.
Wow. And he creates bass guitars custom out of the Atlanta area?
Yeah. He's not too far from here. He's over in Lawrenceville.
Does he sell them online?
I think he does. He only builds per request now.
Okay.
So it'll be a custom design for somebody who finds them and knows exactly what they want, and he'll go through. I mean, he'll build a 4-string up to a 12-string, which he has done. With a drill press and a belt sander, he can build you something incredible.
Amazing.
but some of the stuff that he's produced in the past, and what I was going to say is he'll get slow and he'll send me a picture, or he'll be in here and show me something on his phone, and he's like, hey, this is based on building. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then he'll slide over and he's like, and here's the guitar for my brother, which he'll use all the exact same woods for every part of it. So
Oh,
he'll
wow.
do a couple, probably 3 different times. He's done matching sets, bass and guitar, which he built the bass for him. And then he'll build the guitar for his brother and give it to his brother and stuff.
Super cool, man.
Very talented man right there.
Barrett, do you have any suggestions for anyone that wants to launch into this career? I mean, besides, hey, go to Southeast Kentucky. And I have to say, when I was thinking about doing it, I did a lot of research online. You know, I found you guys, and I just moved to Charlotte from the Marietta area, and I was like,
Oh, right on.
I used to be right in their backyard, you know?
Yeah.
But what you guys offer is super unique, and I couldn't find really many other, you know, online courses that were as thorough.
There's not. There's even the in-person schools that I've talked to, friends that have gone to different schools. I mean, we got a couple guys in here from some of the oldest luthier schools around, and there's nobody that's as thorough as we do it. There's schools that I've seen guys come in here from, and I know for a fact that because it's some of the teachers are people that have had benches in this shop, back way back in the day.
Wow.
And I'll see the spec sheet that they've given the student, and their spec sheets are off by a couple thousandths of an inch here and there, a 32nd or two here and there. And I never understood why these people are paying for this school and the teacher isn't willing to give them everything that they know. I'm like, you're holding out on this because you're afraid that somebody's going to come out of your school and do it better than you. I'm like, but if you're confident in your own hands and your skill level, you shouldn't be worried if somebody can do it better than you. And even if they do, let them. The world could use some fantastic techs out there, but the last thing you want to do is mislead somebody and make them feel like they got their money's worth.
Right.
And withhold some information just because you get to keep the upper hand in that. I've seen it over and over and over again at these schools. And I never understood that. So when we started our school, I told Mindy there's going to be no secret ingredients, no information left off the table. It's everything that we know is going to be passed on to everybody, because even if it's hard enough to maintain all of the knowledge and the information and be very good at it. The last thing anybody should be worried about is somebody taking over and doing it. If somebody's going to do it better than you, then that's going to happen. There's nothing you can do to change that. But I never understood choking back the info there. You have all of this, share it. What are you going to do? Take it to your grave and then not pass it on to anybody?
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. We want people playing good instruments, well playing instruments.
Right.
And we want music to sound good. We want people to have fun with it. And the last thing you want to do is keep stuff from somebody, I'm like, put it all out there. Let's enjoy it all together. There's no point in hiding anything.
Exactly. And the cool thing about the Repair Academy is you guys, it doesn't end when you graduate. I got my certificate proudly posted on my wall. Your library of videos are always growing. On the site, and
you always have access to that, and you have access to me and several of the other techs in here.
That's true. And Mindy's always answered questions immediately.
Absolutely.
Very noticeable. So one of my questions, in Barrett, that I'm going to ask repair specialists that I interview is, what's your favorite tool in your toolbox? But I'm going to change it up with you guys, because I know your favorite tool was the 12 file. And it was
the 12
available. You guys just released your own version of it.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah, this was a fantastic file. And then I think this is my second or third round of files in 20 years. I'll use them till the teeth are wearing down, and then you don't realize it because you're using them every day, so they're slowly wearing down. Eventually you go, I think I need to replace these. So I think the second time I went to replace them, I said I need another 1216, and we looked and they didn't make it. So it was years and years I'm using, I got, this is one of the first ones. It's real narrow, in its profile. This is obvious, it's been around. There's nothing on the handle left. This was in the shop before I started, and this was one of the second ones. It's a little bit wider. It'd be kind of hard to see. But you can see the profile is a little bit fatter on one of the
Sure.
newer ones. And then after they made this one, they just stopped. They moved to the 1220, and tried the 1220. It was horrible. It was
20 on the
absolutely
other.
terrible. So we took the time to go and contact some people overseas and said, "Hey, you guys capable of doing this?" And sure enough, I drew out an extremely highly detailed diagram with every measurement down to the thousandth of an inch, exactly what we wanted, sent it to them, and they said, "This looks great. We can do it." So
Awesome.
we
And it's
just
available
got
on
the
your
order
web-
in a couple days ago. I'm sorry.
Cool. It's available on your website.
Yep.
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 I saw
got them up on the website.
the social media post of all the boxes. You just got them shipped to you
Oh
guys.
yeah. It just came in. It took several months, but it was totally worth the wait. And I can't wait to get these in more people's hands. But the 1220 file is a nightmare, and the 1216 is what everyone should be using. It'll make your life so much easier. So
Cool. I have yet to get mine, but I'm definitely in line. So no
yeah,
worries.
sweet. Yeah, for sure.
Guitar Garage Talk is brought to you by YourGuitarMechanic.com. Setups, repairs, restrings, and more. Whatever your guitar or bass needs, we can get it done. Offering pickup and delivery service in the greater Charlotte, North Carolina area. YourGuitarMechanic.com. Now, back to the program.
Do you have any other, and you don't have to be specific, obviously, but do you have any other tools that you might be thinking about developing?
I mean, there's always stuff.
Mhm.
We got. It's one of those things where you're always making tools. You're always
Sure.
making something that you might not have on hand, and you kind of need to recreate something. A lot of times it's for kind of a one-off instrument where you're not going to see a whole lot of them. I was trying to find. I just made one the other day for an extremely odd truss rod adjustment. I think I did a video on it, and he's got it up in the school and everything. But a lot of times, if you got to make a tool, it sometimes ends up being for something that you're only going to see every couple years. And at that point in time, there's no point in putting it into a mass production and making a dozen of them, because it might end up being one of those things, kind of like, sometimes StuMac will make a tool and people just see it and they go, "I need that." And then you buy it and it sits around collecting dust for 4 years before you
That's
actually
me.
use it on anything, Yeah.
That's me. I have a whole set of clamps I bought going, I'm going to need this someday. Haven't touched them.
Yeah. I haven't even touched them. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, Barrett, I don't want to take up your time. It's super precious. I understand
it's
that
all
you're
good.
a busy guy. So I'm going to jump right to the last question. I ask everyone this.
Okay.
If you were to pick 3 guitar tunes to put on a Desert Island guitar mixtape, what three guitar tunes would you pick?
See, you got to remember, you're asking a drummer.
Yeah. Okay.
So-
Well, maybe, and I've had people answer with guitar players. You know what? Like one guy said Santana. They're
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Well, I'm probably going to get a lot of hate for this, but I'm
come
not a big guitar song guy.
wow.
My favorite stuff is like singer-songwriter. So most of it's going to be either acoustic guitar based or piano based or something like that.
Awesome.
If I were stranded on an island, a couple of years ago, Weezer came out with this album called "OK Human." And it's one of the best albums I've ever heard. I absolutely love it. I've listened to it probably 1,000 times at this point. Mostly piano. It's piano based. I mean, it's got drums and guitars, bass, everything on there.
Cool.
But it's heavily piano based. And then outside of that, obviously, a lot of singer-songwriters, anything Rhett Miller or the old 97s do, I'm absolutely 100% in love with. Very heavy singer-songwriter stuff. But that's what, I'm a singer-songwriter myself, so that's what I'm drawn to. If I were stuck on a stranded island and I had Cliffs of Dover to listen to over and over again,
Yeah.
I'd probably last 2 days before I walked straight into the ocean. It's just not exactly my cup of tea. You know?
I hate that, I had a customer came in the other day and he's like, man, Cliffs of Dover, Jesus, if I have to. And I was like, oh man, don't be dissing Eric Johnson. But I mean, so many people on Instagram have done their version of it.
Yeah.
It's turned into, if I hear Eruption one more time, and it's not really Van Halen doing it.
It's kind of that. It's the Guitar Center employee syndrome where the same guy comes in and picks up his guitar and plays the same song over and over and over again, and you hear it in so many different versions, but it's just the same thing over and over. And after a while, you're like, all right, I don't need any of that anymore. I tend to lean towards something less guitar driven. I don't.
Gotcha.
I grew up playing punk rock, so anything that's any of that, none of that surprises me. I've been behind the drum kit while all the best guys in Atlanta are doing that stuff in front of me on stage, and it's not, none of that wows me anymore. I hear it and go, here it is again. This guy's got to prove something to everybody, So.
All right, well then
I would never crap on Eric Johnson or Satriani. Any of those guys are legends, and they're legends for a reason. They're absolutely insane. They're incredible guitar players.
Well, then I'll throw you one last bone then, Barrett. Pick a drum tune. Who influenced you as a drummer then?
I'd say probably Boz Rivera is one of my favorite drummers. You're not going to find him. There's an album. They're out of it's a Southern California punk rock. It's a band called The Other, not to be confused with the horror punk band The Other, which I think is from Sweden or somewhere. There's a Southern California punk band. They put out one album called The Other, and the band is called The Other. The album is called The Other.
Cool.
And the album cover is kind of like a bunch of stuffed animal for woodland creatures watching a TV is how you're going to identify. That is some of the best drumming I have ever heard in my entire life. Outside of that, I'm going to have to say Josh Freese has always been one of my favorites. Josh Freese is a drummer for the band called the Vandals. And if you look at his track listing, your head would spin. He just got off I think it was a 1.5-year tour being Sting's drummer. The Foo Fighters just picked him up to be their main drummer.
That's where I know that name from.
He is, and one of the nicest guys I've ever met. Super nice, extremely humble, very down to earth, but by far one of the most talented drummers behind a drum kit I have ever seen or heard in my entire life. He's absolutely insane and just a fantastic guy. Anything Josh Freese has been on, Devo, Nine Inch Nails, Paramore, anything in it, you start looking up what he's done, and you're gonna say, how is this one man? This is impossible. But his technique and drumming and everything, it's absolutely insane. He's such a good drummer.
That wander in between genres, and they're able to fit in any genre.
Absolutely. Yep.
Very cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, Barrett, again, thank you so much for joining me in the conversation.
Yeah, it was great.
I look forward to your next Q&A. I love that you guys do that, regular Q&As. Where, students log in, ask you questions.
Yep.
I've even had a couple questions. You gave me the right answer. The answer that I needed to help my customers along with their guitars, and it was great.
Awesome. No, we're not going to steer you wrong.
And I completely feel that. So you take good care, man, and we'll be in touch.
All right, brother. Sounds good.
Thank you,
Thanks,
sir.
man. Take care.